The desert sun hung low like a dying ember, casting blood-orange light over the jagged hills of Perdition Ridge. The air shimmered with heat and secrets, and the only sound was the slow creak of leather and the soft, measured hooves of a single stallion cutting across the sand. Rider Cade sat tall in the saddle, hat tipped low, one hand resting on the worn grip of his Colt Peacemaker. His coat flapped in the dry wind, dust clinging to every fold. A man with a past that trailed behind him like gun smoked too fast for the law, too slow for forgiveness. He wasn't headed to salvation, he was headed to San Diablo, the kind of town even the devil wouldn't claim, but Ryder had a reason, or more precisely, someone. Inside the Red Vixen Saloon, the piano was out of tune, but nobody cared. Laughter mixed with the clink of whiskey glasses and the occasional slam of fists on hardwood. It was the kind of place where fortunes were lost and women wore iron under their silk. And then she stepped onto the floor. Cassidy Monroe. Red hair like firelight, voice like honey poured over gunpowder. They called her Angel not because she was pure but because heaven might miss her if hell ever caught up. She walked like a woman used to danger, and as Ryder pushed open the saloon doors, their eyes met like lightning splitting a tree in half. "Thought you'd never ride back this way," Cassidy said, her tone half knife half caress. Ryder leaned against the bar, eyes never leaving hers. "Didn't think I'd find a reason to." She walked up to him, toe to toe. "You left me with a broken bottle and a broken heart, Ryder Cade. And you left me with a bounty on my head and half the map burned," he replied, lips twitching into something like a smile. The room had grown quieter, the patrons sensing tension thick enough to cut. Cassidy glanced around, then grabbed Ryder by the collar and dragged him through the swinging doors behind the stage, up the back stairs to her quarters. Inside, moonlight slipped through threadbare curtains, throwing silver over the hardwood floor. Cassidy shoved Ryder against the wall, eyes blazing. "You got nerve, riding in like you owned the place," she hissed. He grabbed her wrists, spun her around, and pressed her back to the door with a low growl in his throat. "You want me to stop?" he asked, voice a velvet threat. She looked up, wild and defiant. "Push harder." He leaned in, his breath hot against her ear. "Angel, I'll push until you scream louder than midnight flames." Their lips met like two storms colliding, rough, hungry, desperate. But it wasn't just lust. It was unfinished business, the kind soaked in blood, betrayal, and longing too old to admit. Their passion wasn't a dance, it was a war. They tumbled onto the bed, knocking over a lamp. The flame caught on the curtain's edge, and neither of them noticed, too tangled in one another, too deep in the blaze they'd started themselves. It wasn't until the smoke curled around them that Cassidy pulled away, breathless. "Damn it, Ryder, the curtain." He leaped up, grabbed a water basin, and doused the fire. The room filled with steam and curses. They stared at the charred fabric in silence. "I suppose," Cassidy said, panting, "that's the kind of damage we still do." Ryder looked at her, eyes dark. "We were never meant to be gentle." A knock rattled the door. "Cassidy," came a gruff voice. "Marshal Keene's downstairs. Says he's got a warrant for Ryder Cade." They froze. Cassidy's hand went to the derringer under her pillow. Ryder looked at the window. He had minutes, maybe seconds. "You gonna help me or turn me in?" he asked, voice low. She stared at him. That same fire from years ago flared in her chest. "Depends," she said, lifting her gun and tossing him his holster. "You still ride like hell's chasing you?" He strapped it on, eyes locked to hers. "Hell doesn't chase me, Angel. It rides with me." The sound of boots on the saloon stairs was getting closer. Cassidy's hand was steady on the door, her derringer, loaded and cocked. Ryder Cade tightened the belt of his gun holster, every movement silent, controlled. Years on the run had made him patient, and it was time not to be. Cassidy glanced at him. "There's a stable round back. Old whiskey shipment crates stacked behind it too, can ride out if you slip past the alley." Ryder didn't move. "I ain't running without you," he said. She laughed bitterly. "You showed me once what running looked like. You didn't even leave dust. That was survival. This is different." Another knock, louder this time. "Cassidy, open up. Marshall says this is his last ask." Her eyes met Ryder's. "Then let's not make it easy for him." She threw the door open, a wide smile painted across her lips, like nothing had happened. Outside stood Clyde Braxton, owner of the Red Vixen and Cassidy's longtime business partner, though the way he hovered, it was clear his heart had more to do with his investments than any feelings. Clyde's eyes flicked past her shoulder. "You hiding him, Cass?" She stepped forward, gun low at her side. "You gonna search my room, Clyde? Got a badge now?" He hesitated, scratching the back of his neck. Marshall's just doing his job, is all. Cade's got a kill order hanging on him. If you're protecting him, you'll what? She asked coolly. He backed off, muttering, suit yourself, but I ain't stopping the law for you. Cassidy slammed the door. Her shoulders sagged slightly, the mask of calm slipping. That'll buy you a minute. Maybe two. Ryder stepped forward and brushed a loose curl behind her ear. Come with me. She pulled away. And ride where? Into more ghosts. Better than rotting in this place waiting to be someone else's leverage, he said. Cassidy looked at the burned curtain still curling with smoke, at the bed that once held promises now reduced to ash. She turned away from it all. Fine, she muttered. We ride. They moved like shadows down the back stairs. Cassidy stopping to grab a canvas bag from her office loaded with cash, bullets, and a folded wanted poster with Ryder's name scrawled across the top in red ink. Outside, dusk had settled, the heat lingering like a warning. The alley behind the saloon was narrow, lined with trash barrels and broken crates. The stable's doors groaned as Ryder shoved them open. 2 horses, his black stallion, Ash, and Cassidy's dappled mare, Whiskey, were waiting. She tossed the saddle up like a woman who had done it 1,000 times, but her hands shook faintly. You all right? Ryder asked, tightening Ash's girth. I'm riding out of a town I spent 6 years building, she said. How would you feel? Like I should have left 6 years ago, he said, mounting up. Cassidy climbed onto Whiskey, eyes scanning the shadows. Just as she turned toward the back trail, a voice boomed from the edge of the stable. Hold it right there, Ryder. Marshall, Elijah Keene, tall, mean, and itching for glory. His badge gleamed like sin, and he had a rifle raised and ready. Behind him, 3 deputies closed in, surrounding the exit. Cassidy swore under her breath, he's got too many. Ryder didn't even blink. Then we go through them. She stared at him. You insane. He smiled. Same as always. Without another word, Ryder kicked his heels into Ash's flanks. The stallion charged forward, hooves thundering like Judgment Day. Cassidy gritted her teeth and followed, gun drawn. The first deputy raised his weapon. But Ryder was faster. His revolver barked twice, and the man fell, screaming. Cassidy fired at the second, grazing his shoulder and sending him spinning. Keene shouted something, but the words were drowned in gunfire and dust. Ryder rode straight through the chaos, Cassidy right behind. They broke into the open street, galloping through town like devils unleashed. Bullets tore through the night, smashing into barrels, signs, windows. The townsfolk screamed and scattered, ducking for cover. Cassidy turned in the saddle, shot a round that shattered the marshal's lantern-lit window behind them. You really don't change, she yelled over the pounding hooves. I warned you, Angel, Ryder called back. I don't ride for pie, ride for fire. They didn't stop until the desert swallowed them whole, the lights of San Diablo vanishing behind dunes and cactus shadows. When they finally reined in beneath the cliffs of the old mining gorge, both were silent for a long moment, their chests heaving, hearts racing. Cassidy slid off Whiskey, dust rising around her boots. Where now? She asked. Ryder looked to the horizon, where the moon hung like a bullet caught midair. Now, he said, we finish what we started. The desert night was bitter. All fire from the day burned out, replaced with a wind that howled through the rocks like lost souls. Cassidy huddled near the campfire, her revolver across her lap, watching Ryder Cade pace along the edge of the gorge like a wolf sniffing a scent only he could smell. Spit it out, Ryder, she said, voice steady but low. You didn't drag me out of San Diablo just to ride aimless in the dust. Ryder didn't stop pacing. His silhouette flickered in and out of the firelight, long coat trailing behind him like smoke. I need something that's buried here, he said finally. She raised an eyebrow. Buried. He turned to her, jaw tight. Not gold. Something worse. Cassidy narrowed her eyes. You're talking about Deadwood. Deadwood Gorge wasn't on any map anymore. The mine had collapsed years ago, taking with it dozens of men and something even the law was too afraid to dig up. Cassidy rose to her feet. You're out of your mind. Maybe, Ryder replied. But I wasn't the only one who escaped that mine, Cass. There were others. One of them still out there, pulling the strings. The bounty on my head. It ain't just for the killings. You think someone's setting you up? He nodded. Someone who knows what we did back in that gorge. Cassidy stared into the fire, memory flickering like the flame gunfire. Blood, collapsing beams, a chest full of documents stolen from the Union Army, and a man named Silas Vane, who had made a deal with the devil and tried to drag them all to hell with him. You think Silas survived? She asked. eyes unreadable. I know he did, Ryder said, and he's the one who gave Keen my name. Cassidy swore under her breath. I thought he was buried in that collapse. He was, Ryder replied grimly. Problem is, I don't think he stayed there. By morning, the two were riding into the gorge. Deadwood had once been a booming mining town, now it was a skeleton. Picked clean by time and buzzards, the wooden structures leaned like drunks in a storm, half swallowed by sand and thornbush. A rusted sign still dangled over the collapsed mine entrance. Deadwood Dig Number 9, no gods, no masters. They dismounted, leading the horses into the shadow of an old supply shed. Ryder knelt beside a shattered crate, brushing away sand until he uncovered a half-buried crate of dynamite sticks still wrapped in oilskin. Still deadly. Jesus, Cassidy muttered. That stuff's older than both of us. Might be what we need, Ryder said, carefully setting them aside. A sharp crack echoed across the gorge. Cassidy dropped to a crouch, gun drawn. Ryder spun, pulling his revolver. Sniper, Cassidy hissed, up near the water tower. They dashed behind the broken foundation of the old assay office. Another shot rang out, splintering the beam above Ryder's head. Ryder grinned like a madman. Ain't this familiar? Cassidy rolled her eyes. You have the worst taste in nostalgia. He peeked around the corner, scanned the ridge. Then he saw a flash of movement behind a rusted barrel. That's not just a shooter, he muttered. That's a message. Cassidy frowned. You saying Silas is watching? I'm saying he never stopped. Ryder reached into his coat and pulled out a small brass locket. He handed it to her. What's this? She asked. Insurance, he said. Inside's the map. The real one. Not to gold. Not to weapons, to the evidence. The proof of what Silas did to those men in Deadwood. Her fingers tightened around the locket. You kept this all these years. I couldn't bury it, Cass, if something ever happened to me. Another bullet cut the air. Too close. Time to flush him out, Ryder growled. Cassidy gestured at the dynamite crate. You're not seriously. I am, he said, already lighting a fuse. Cassidy shook her head. This is why we can't have normal lives. He grinned. Normal's just a lie folks tell themselves when they're too scared to live. Ryder hurled the stick high toward the ridge. It landed behind the barrel with a dull thud, then dash boom. The ridge exploded in flame and dirt, rocks tumbling like dice across the gorge floor. The sniper's nest vanished in a cloud of smoke. They waited. Nothing moved. Cassidy stepped forward, gun ready. They climbed the ridge, carefully approaching the ruins of the sniper perch. No body, just a single boot print in the dust, too large for the shooter they'd seen. Ryder stared at it, lips tight. He wasn't alone, he muttered. Cassidy looked down the canyon. You think this was a trap? Ryder didn't answer. His eyes were already on the horizon. He knows we're here, and now he knows we're coming. The moon was full and angry, spilling cold light across the dust-choked canyon. It painted the rocks white like bones, and every shadow seemed to whisper. Ryder Cade hadn't slept. He didn't need to. Not tonight. Not with Silas Vane alive and out there, watching. Cassidy had fallen into a restless sleep near the dwindling fire. The locket still clutched in her fist, like a prayer she didn't want to say out loud. She muttered in her dreams. Old names and old pains surfacing like ghosts from the gorge. Barter sat with his back to the rocks, revolver across his lap, scanning the darkness. Every rustle made his fingers twitch. He wasn't afraid of dying, not really. He just refused to go before settling the score that had haunted him since Deadwood collapsed. Just before dawn, Cassidy stirred. You're still up, she mumbled, voice rough as gravel. Ryder didn't look at her. Didn't feel like closing my eyes on a past that keeps waking up with a knife. She sat up, brushing dust from her hair. I dreamed of the last time we saw Silas. His face, half his damn jaw was gone. Remember? Ryder nodded, but his eyes were clear, cold, like he'd already accepted hell and was ready to drag us down with him. Cassidy stood, stretching the knots from her back. So what's the plan? We ride into whatever hole he's hiding in and hope he lets us walk out. Ryder finally turned to her. No, we don't walk out. We end this. By mid-morning, they reached the old rail bridge, a rusted spine of steel that once carried gold and blood from Deadwood to the outer territories. Now it stood abandoned, half collapsed over a dried-up ravine. It was a place built for ambushes and graves. As they approached, a figure stepped into view. Slim, pale, wrapped in black cloth, a rifle slung across her back, but her hands were empty. Cassidy slowed her mare. That her? Ryder grunted. That's Juniper Vane, Silas's sister. Cassidy's eyes narrowed. Didn't know the devil had kin. She's worse, Ryder replied. He made deals. She made promises. Juniper lifted one hand in greeting. Ryder Cade, Cassidy Monroe, still riding together, I see. Nostalgic. Nostalgia's a corpse with perfume, Cassidy snapped. Tell your brother his time's up. Juniper smiled, teeth like frost. He already knows. That's why I'm here to give you a choice. Ryder dismounted slowly, keeping one hand near his holster. We don't do choices anymore. We do ends. Juniper tilted her head. This end comes with options. Turn over the locket. Walk away. He'll clear your name. Keen disappears. The bounty vanishes. You ride free. Cassidy let out a cold laugh. You expect us to believe that? You should, Juniper said calmly, because if you don't, tonight, the fire that took Deadwood will burn again, only this time, it won't stop at a mine. San Diablo, Red Vixen. Everyone you left behind. She looked straight at Cassidy, even Clyde. Cassidy's jaw tightened, her fingers curled into fists. You tell Silas, he threatens my people again. I'll send him pieces of you in a whiskey barrel. Juniper's smile never wavered. I'll tell him, but I already know what he'll say. With a slight bow, she stepped backward into the shadows, vanishing like smoke. No sound of horse, no crunch of boot, just gone. Cassidy turned to Ryder, fury in her eyes. He's gonna torch the town. Ryder nodded. Unless we get there first. By sundown, they reached the Mesa Ridge, the last overlook before San Diablo. Smoke already curled on the horizon. A column of riders was coming, 10, maybe 15 armed men in black dusters, torches strapped to their saddlebags. At the head rode Silas Vane himself, face scarred and barely human. A steel jaw clamped tight over burned flesh. Cassidy sucked in a breath. That bastard. Ryder drew his revolver and checked the chambers. 6 bullets. Not enough. But that was never the point. I'm not letting him touch that town, Cassidy said. Her voice like a whip. You won't, Ryder said, but we'll need more than grit. Cassidy opened the locket and pulled out the map inside. This ridge, there's a hidden tunnel here, from the old rail storage, leads straight into town under the jailhouse. Ryder smiled. You remember everything. I remember what matters. They turned their horses downhill, racing toward the mouth of the tunnel, the thunder of approaching vengeance close behind. Above them, San Diablo shimmered in the distance, unaware that fire and fury were about to come calling. They rode hard through the last stretch of desert, the wind whipping grit into their faces. Beneath them, the earth trembled faintly, the kind of omen men in these parts didn't ignore. Ahead, San Diablo shimmered under the rising heat, the town unaware that fire was coming for it from both ends. Ryder Cade and Cassidy Monroe rode fast, low in their saddles, cutting through brush and dry gulches like ghosts on a mission. Behind them, Silas Vane and his riders thundered closer. Ahead of them, a town full of people who had no idea they were about to be used as bargaining chips in a much older, bloodier game. Cassidy pulled her mare up hard as they reached the final ridgeline. Below, they could see it all, the narrow streets of San Diablo, the smoke already beginning to curl from torches lit by Vane's advance men. Every second counted. He's already started, she muttered, her jaw set. Ryder nodded, eyes scanning the horizon. Then we stop him now. They dismounted, moving fast on foot through the dry wash leading toward the old rail tunnel, backdoor into the town. Long since boarded up and forgotten by most. But Cassidy remembered it. She remembered everything. They pried the boards loose and slipped inside. The tunnel was tight and dark, echoing with old stories. Cassidy moved first, torch in one hand, pistol in the other. Ryder followed, silent and steady, his revolver drawn. By the time they reached the hatch beneath the jailhouse, they could hear it, shouting above horses, boots. The tension in the air was thick as gunpowder. Ryder eased the hatch open just enough to see. The town square was crawling with Vane's men. Townsfolk had been forced into the church under guard. Smoke drifted from a wagon outside the saloon, the Red Vixen, which had already taken a few licks of fire. And there, at the center of it all, sat Silas Vane. He looked like a relic of a war that never ended, burned, twisted by time and vengeance. His steel jaw gleamed in the sun, and his eyes were cold, hollow, and cruel. Cassidy took a deep breath. We need to split them. Ryder looked at her. You thinking what I'm thinking? Always. They moved with purpose. Cassidy slipped along the rooftops of the livery and trading post, ducking between chimneys and roof beams. She had her long rifle slung and ready. From her perch, she had clear sight lines across the whole square. Ryder, meanwhile, walked straight into the middle of the street, boots echoing in the stillness. The townsfolk stared in silence. Vane's men tensed. And then, Ryder spoke. Silas Vane, you said you came for me, so here I am. The outlaw leader turned in his saddle, calm as a preacher before a storm. Didn't expect you to walk into the fire, Cade. I don't mind the heat, Ryder replied. It's the smoke I can't stand. You know how this ends, Silas said. I do, Ryder said, drawing his gun. It ends right now. A single shot cracked across the square Cassidy's rifle. The first guard dropped. Chaos erupted. Cassidy fired again, taking out another rider. Ryder rolled behind the water trough, gun blazing, civilians scattered, and San Diablo became a war zone. Silas dismounted slowly, drawing to pistols. His long coat whipping in the wind, Ryder stepped into the open. The two men stood facing each other, no words left. Just the long, quiet draw of breath and the twitch of fingers near triggers. 1 second, one shot, and Ryder moved first. The bullet struck Silas in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. Another hit his leg. He dropped to one knee, snarling in pain. Cassidy joined Ryder at his side. Rifle aimed but unused now. It's over, she said. Silas looked up at them, bitter smile under his metal jaw. You think you've changed anything? They'll always be more like me. Maybe, Ryder said, but not in this town. The rest of Vane's men scattered. Some were taken by the townsfolk. Some ran, and by the time the marshal arrived, it was all over. Keene dismounted, taking in the scene, the bodies, the scorched saloon, and Silas Vane lying unconscious in chains. He looked to Ryder. This the part where I arrest you. Cassidy stepped forward and handed him the locket inside. The map and documents from Deadwood Gorge, evidence of the crimes Silas committed, the cover-ups, the blood money. You read this, she said. You'll be thanking Ryder, not hanging him. Keene studied the contents for a long time, then he nodded slowly. I guess I never saw the whole picture, he said. You've got 5 minutes to be gone before I do. They rode out before the sun was fully down, quiet and without fanfare. Cassidy glanced at Ryder as the lights of San Diablo faded behind them. You ever think we'll stop running? Ryder looked ahead, toward the horizon painted with fire and dusk. Maybe we're not running anymore, he said. Maybe now we're just riding forward. Cassidy smiled. Reckon that sounds like a good place to start. And with the stars above them and dust behind them, they rode on toward whatever came next. Together.